Welcome, friends, to Reality Test. What is reality testing, you may ask? Well, it's something we all do every day, maybe with our loved ones over dinner, with coworkers at the water cooler, etc., when we check our subjective or personal emotions, thoughts, and so forth against objective or sort of more agreed upon fact-based reality. Although, because Dr. Ray and I, Dr. Kay, are social constructionists, we don't actually believe there's one true objective reality, but rather our own personal versions of it constructed in the context of relationships. But you get the idea. So here in Reality Test, we're going to be testing the castmate realities and the producer antics of our favorite reality TV shows against what we know as licensed psychologists about the reality out here, off of our TVs. We hope you'll join us as we attempt to reality test. That's it. Thanks, y'all. Now check out our campy theme song.
Are you feeling stressed? Your head's all messed? Well, let's forget all the rest. Fuck it, we're blessed, cause it's time to talk reality test. Come with us. Let's reality test.
Welcome to Reality Test. I'm Dr. Ray.
And I'm Dr. Kay. Feel free to check in and take a seat wherever you like. We're going downtown to the queer... I almost said the Queer Eye for straight guy. We're going down to Queer Love. I know, another great one. Queer Love of the Ultimatum. So this is on Netflix, friends. Go find it if you haven't yet and come back to our episode later.
So good. So good.
So
Please
good.
watch.
Yeah. This is season 2. We're going to do it in 2 sections. So like today we'll just talk about episodes 1 to 5, and then, which is like for those who've seen it already, which hopefully you all have if you're listening, it's when this ends. This part will end before they switch to their original partners in the trial marriages. Mm-hmm. And then next week we're going to do 6 to 10, which is the second half, of course. So yeah, what a delight. We're excited to cover this with you. We're not doing recap. We're just doing our segments today. We might do awards or segments next time, but the segments are 6 segments, as you may recall from past episodes, which we'll get into. They're psychologically minded. But first I want to hear, dear Dr. Ray, what is on your heart and mind today?
Okay, so I'm looking this up because I forgot the name of what I'm talking about. So I watched a murder documentary last night from 1992, and it was so good. And apparently it was like one of the OGs. Sorry.
Oh, I might know.
Connor and I were texting about it last night, and it's just, where did I put it?
Like The Staircase? Is it like one of those?
Paradise Lost.
Oh,
which
yes.
I know is also a poem. Have you seen that documentary?
Yes, totally.
Oh my God. It's so weird. It's so weird and southern and bizarre. Like creepy. Bizarre.
Yeah.
I was up and I Googled the whole thing, and it's a trilogy. So there's 2 more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Y'all, the first one got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. And you know what? It holds up. Honestly.
Yeah.
I was like, these people are still creepy. This is still bizarre. Satanic panic was at play. And also, like,
part of it.
I think the case is like still ambiguous. Like, it's still unclear. I am obsessed. I cannot wait. After we finish this podcast, I'm going to watch number 2. I'm going to pay for it. I don't give a shit. It is so fun. I mean, it's like deeply disturbing. I should lead with that. It is deeply disturbing.
But it's like historical. It's like a historical journey, and important because that's not even that long ago. You know, that part of our history is so recent for Satanic Panic, and like today would be like wildly unrealistic or whatever. You know, like people wouldn't believe it, and yet it was just so recent. And then just the way that people are in the video seems so unrealistic, and yet it was just now, like just now was how it was. Oh I cannot
believe they are all real people. That stepfather is so creepy. Ooh. Oh my God. At the beginning, I was like, did he do it? And then it was kind of, I'm not going to spoil anything. I kind of just did. But it's y'all, but not really, because we don't actually know what happened.
Yeah, I was going to say, no, you really didn't. No.
Yeah.
The other thing is, like, I was trying to remember the other movies' names, because I was trying to remember if I saw the other ones or not. I remember knowing there were 3, but I can't remember if I went, because I watched Paradise Lost like at least a decade ago, but I can't remember if I watched the other 3 or not.
It was like everything. I was like, I can't believe I've never seen this. I can't believe I've never heard about this. What the fuck? Oh my God. Y'all watch this shit. It is I mean, trigger warning, it's graphic. If you want to skip the first 10 minutes, it might behoove you, though there might be other pretty graphic depictions of murder,
children,
and sexual violence. So if that's, you know, you can skip through those parts because they are quite disturbing.
Yeah.
And the documentary itself is so well done. And I was shocked, like, that was that good.
90s.
Really.
Truly. Yeah, the other, so they were all started with Paradise Lost in the title, but then they had different subtitles. So that's why I was like, I can't remember if they had the same name or not, because they both did and didn't. I don't remember if I saw them.
Wild.
That's great.
Yeah. Everyone's so weird. And I mean, maybe I do mean that in a gawking way, but I think I mean it also in like, man, things have changed a lot in the last 30 years. And also things are very similar. Like people tend to point fingers at the town weirdos, right?
Yeah.
The intellectual town weirdos. And also maybe he did it. I don't fucking know. But like, it's just wild.
No, exactly.
Wild.
Exactly. No, a lot of that is still similar. And like, or like movements being blamed, right? Like now we could even say like Trump era is being blamed, maybe appropriately, but like, you know, like different types of movements being blamed for like children's actions or teens' actions. Like, or video games, maybe today is like our Satanic Panic or something. But yeah, exactly. Like there's different, each era has its own version of these things. And yet now just in the next era, it looks so weird what that last era was about. So that is really cool. It's a cool kind of way of thinking about it, like cultural analysis.
Oh, I'm so glad you've seen that before. Yes. I am new to it. And it's, you know, when something that people know about exists and you had never seen it and you're just so like, into it, like it's pretty much all I can think about these like since last night. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah. Like, it gets a little bit under your skin too. Like it's like one of those things that like really sticks with you for a long time. Like I still get like shivers a little bit thinking about it, just in the way that it has like a guttural feeling, or it has like a physical reaction to it, which is also excitement, of course. Like it's excitement to like get into something that's, you know, so engaging and like you're like pulling you in. That's it gets exciting, but it's also a little anxiety provoking, so it just like sticks in your body a little bit.
Yes, it's pretty creepy, and creepy the way everyone talks about the kids who die. Like everyone kind of creeps me out. Yeah, even though I don't know who did it, I'm kind of disturbed by everyone. I think that's what I mean by like differences in culture. I'm like, is this just how people talked? Right. Because I find it weird.
Yeah, exactly. No, because we wouldn't talk about people like that anymore. Like each of those things, like even thinking we could watch a segment from the news back then that is just like a normal day in the news and be like, whoa, they would say that back then. You know, it's like some of the things they were like totally felt entitled to talk about other people with in a public manner is just so different now. And like, thank God. But yeah. The things that were normalized for that era. Yeah, the things that were normalized for that era was so bizarre. And then also, I think this is also a microcosm of like a weird area too. Like this is also in the South, and you know, but
a lot going on. And it's just interesting to see the way religion intersects with how people see death and tragedy, and I don't know, how people see other people too.
Yeah, and even Satanism, which is really more about like revolution and social justice, you know. And so like even just the way that is used through a religious lens versus like sort of what it is more intended to be at this point, at least. But yeah, it's interesting, and I think we've come a long way in that way too. But yeah, definitely religion has and that's another thing that's changed so much just since the 90s, is how much religion was like embedded in every single thing. And we're sort of like, that's what Trump is trying to move us back towards, I think. But I also think that like it's wild to think about how far we've come in just the last decade in terms of how much religion was in everything. Like the news, like people were saying God bless you, whatever, you know, at the end of the news thing or whatever. It was like even in things that were thought to be very neutral or objective, there was still a very religious bend to it, and still is in a lot of it.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny because like listening to the kid who they really thought was like who got sentenced to death, like
right, the ringleader.
I agreed with a lot of the things he was saying and thought he was quite intelligent, and I'm not convinced he didn't do it. Right. But like some of the things he like corrected people about Wicca and that it's actually more about nature and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, he's making a lot of good points. And I can see how he's frustrated with how this like these interrogations are going. And I'm not convinced he didn't do it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I definitely came away. So maybe I did see the second two, and maybe that's part of what informed my decision. But I definitely came away like thinking he definitely didn't do it. So I don't know if it's
wow.
like, so maybe I'm spoiling something, but I don't think so because I don't know that it came from those. I don't even know if I saw them. So it might have just been my like understanding of like how I was supposed to view the video, like how it got posed to me to watch it, because I listened to this podcast called, or did, I haven't seen it in forever, listened to it in forever, although I did go see them live and that was amazing, but that was kind of like around when I stopped listening to them. It's weird how that happens. You sort of like, it ends up getting different to listen to them, but I really like them a lot. It's called Last Podcast on the Left. They talk about all sorts of like different, like horror, and they talk about all types of true crime first and foremost, but they also talk a lot about like mythical things and like cryptology and ufology, like UFOs and aliens. But they talked about Paradise Lost on that show, and I think that the way that they posed it very well could have been like, these people were wrongfully accused, blah blah blah. So I might have gone in thinking that. That's the other option. It's either that or like I felt differently having watched it than you did or whatever. So
I'm intrigued. I can't wait to watch the full thing because it's really compelling. Like wow. I can't believe. I think my mind is blown that this exists and I didn't know about it. Yeah, I thought I watched. Like, I've watched a lot of the more recent true crime documentaries, but I didn't realize I missed such a seminal OG.
Yeah, no, it's I only learned of it from the podcast, to be fair. You know what I mean? I don't think people talk about it all that much, but I definitely learned about it. I think maybe, some people who are like deep in true crime really do more often than I am aware, but definitely that podcast talked a lot about it, and I was like, I need to go do that thing. That is a thing I need to go watch. And I was excited to find it. But yeah, that's so funny. I guess we haven't really talked about our like overlap in true crime interests, by the way. We talked about how we both watched My Favorite Murder, which is, or listen, fuck, I keep saying watch, my goodness. I guess if we're talking about watching a documentary, I'll give myself that. Yeah. No, but we both listened to that. So we did talk a little bit about our shared interest in true crime, but it's funny that we had the shared interest in reality TV and a shared interest in true crime. There's something there, right? Like, I think there's something about that overlap, because they're both reality, right? Like, they're both like, ideally, but they're both also biased, but, so there's something interesting about that overlap, because I definitely think that I've seen that before with other people too. If they're interested in one, they might be interested in the other. And I think true crime is also something that I think a lot of people with trauma are really interested in too, because it has a sort of like and this is something about My Favorite Murder, where it has this ability to like get you prepared for like shit that could happen. Like, it makes you feel like you're like less anxious for something that could happen because you're aware of what can happen to people. But I also think that true crime has an ability to like activate you enough that like it feels more normative, because you're at a certain level of activation all the time, and when you hypoactivate, that can be sort of like alarming to your body or whatever, so it like brings you up into activation like you almost are wanting to be if you're not. And also that it's like you're like, okay, this takes me away from my shit, because like this is worse, like at least this didn't happen to me, it sort of has that quality too. So I think that's really interesting. But I definitely find true crime to be an absolute draw for me, and it has been for a long time. I have sort of fallen off, I have to say. Like, I don't know if that was a symptom of, I've been noodling on this, but I sort of fell off on true crime like around when Trump got elected, not the second time, the first time. And I wonder if it has to do with that, like if it has to do with the fact that I like our society became like a fucking shit show, and I like didn't need those shows to like bring me there anymore.
I think that makes total sense. And I think there are some very well articulated and very fair like critiques of white feminists and their interest in true crime and like the sort of spectacle of it that sometimes I interrogate and then sometimes I don't. And I'm just like, I find this entertaining and I'm just going to watch it. But I do think it's sort of a numbing to certain types of crime and like who gets humanized and who doesn't. It tends to be white people's narratives that get put on Dateline, for example, more often. So like there's Gabby, a lot of problems. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. Go ahead. No, that was just the like big argument also with Gabby Petito when she went missing and then was found dead or whatever. Is like there were also 3 Black people that went missing that weekend and that no one was talking about, and that's been going on since the beginning of the discussion about true crime too. That like that's been a part of it that I've been like tuned into or just thinking a lot about, and also that like we aren't solving it. Like that's something that we're all talking about and still not solving. Like it still isn't being just as elevated in discussion for people of color as not. And yeah, it's a really, really big issue. I also think like, I think there's also a difference, I think, in like watching Dateline or like whatever, and then like trying to like dig into other pieces of it, like sort of like look into the bigger system of a story, because there is something to be said also about the like just eating something with like whole, or whatever that expression is, or like eating it whole with a spoon, whatever the fuck, you know what I'm saying? Like there's something about that versus like learning about the system, from learning about whatever the story is from different systems, because it's also another issue, and including with white feminists, like in digestion of things, is that we take it in from one source, and then like that's like good, and then we feel like, but actually like if you start to like dig a little bit more into it and you get more sources, it is a more well-rounded view of it that can also bring attention to things like socioeconomic differences or racial differences. There are things that like one source is almost never going to capture all of those things, and I think that that's another way of more carefully digesting or ingesting true crime. That's sort of like
in Dateline, almost never.
Yeah,
I have to say Paradise Lost did bring up class, which was cool. Yeah. And like how the police did not like think that, you know, I think one of the parents said that these poor kids' parents were going to care, and they're like, and we do. And like, I thought that was interesting representation. And also like the person who made the false confession had an IQ, or potentially false confession, had an IQ of 72. And it was like the traditional false confession. It was just like, so there was a lot of like, intersecting issues that were at play, and it wasn't race, you know, so I don't know.
It's not talked about at all, right? I think also like in the South that's a problem too, right? Like that might be a really important place to bring that up. Is there anyone of color in there? No, there's like,
I don't think so. It's a
white.
Very white show, I think.
I couldn't think of a single person. Well, yeah, right. And maybe I saw the second two, and I would be forgetting something from that, but I don't think so. I think it is just entirely white, and it's just not raised, but also not raised at all, but also not like discussed either. Like it's not present or represented, but it's also not discussed. Yeah, I think there's others, like the class issue is also one that today can go underrepresented too. So I am glad they do bring that up. That's really important. That is good.
Yeah. But anyway, I went on a tangent.
I will use that tangent to tell you mine, because now I'm going to change what my representation was going to be too, which is I was going to tell you about now I'm going to tell you about some true crime that I watched too. So have you heard of the murder of you must have, but the murder of the 4 students in Idaho?
Yes, and I listened to a Dateline about it.
That's funny. And also another area where it's deeply problematic that they're all white, right? Like we all cared about them. The whole country was like wrapped up in it because they were 4 white kids, you know? So like that's another major issue with that case, and one that is not talked about on almost any of the studies on it. Like no one ever mentions that like everyone cared because they were white. Never. And that's such a fucking problem. It drives me nuts. I've been seeing that in every instance of it. I'm like, come on, somebody mention this. There are a few things like that where I'm like, why is no one mentioning this or whatever too? What is the other one? I'm gonna think of it in a second, but there's a couple things like that. But that case has been like deeply problematic. But part of what is interesting about it is that we don't know a motive at all, and so that does make it very like, you know, intriguing. You want to learn more. And I just had this like moment 3 days ago, where I just was like trying to figure out what the name, like how to find a podcast on it. Cause I was like, oh, I haven't followed up on that. I wonder what's going on with it. And I misremembered it as Ohio and not Idaho, which I blame you, because I think I was thinking about Ohio because of you. But I was thinking
honored.
it was Ohio. I know, right? You've stuck in my head now more. So, and also like completely different part of the country, but you know, similar sounding, Ohio and Idaho.
Yeah,
so they have H and O's. They both have H and O's and I's. Yeah. So I looked
3
up
out of 4.
Ohio. Yeah.
No, 4 out of 4.
Yes, right. For Ohio.
Yeah, not for Idaho.
Except there's only one. Yeah. But also, whatever the fuck. It's good. They're the same to me because I have no, direct contact with either state. So it's sadly they've been smushed in my brain. But yeah, definitely also the spelling, I swear. So, and sound. So I was like looking it up as Ohio for like Ohio students, like and I couldn't find anything. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, I can't believe no one's talking about this. Like I was like so disturbed by it. I was like, no one cares. And then like I just had this like moment the next day where I was like, fuck, I think it might be Idaho. And I looked it up, and it just happened that exact day was the day he was being sentenced.
Wow.
So like I just had this moment where I was like, I want to know more about this. I looked it up wrong, and then the day I looked it up right, it just happened to be he was in his sentencing court in that moment, like the moment that I looked it up. And it was pretty quick because he came with he had declared guilty instead of not guilty so that he wouldn't get the death penalty. So his sentencing was very, very fast. Like the court case was very, very fast that day, the court time. It wasn't that fast. They had victim statements, which were actually very intriguing. So they put the whole thing online. Like, you can watch the whole thing because some things aren't open, but that one is open. Mm-hmm. And I was watching it. It was just like deeply moving and like learning more about the families of the victims. It's so disturbing. He just sat there like totally cold, like just looking at them without taking any sort of like beat or emotion in his face. He never said a single word. He said yes when he was forced to say yes about certain things, but he didn't say a single word about his motive or doing it or anything about it. I definitely believe he did it. I don't think he just was going not guilty because he didn't want the death penalty. I do believe there's way enough evidence that why it's him. But yeah, what a disturbing case. So anyway, point being, when I figured out he was getting sentenced, I was like, dude, I really want to learn more about this right now, like see what's going on. Like someone needs to bring me up to speed because like what the fuck happened? And I found this, do you know Liz Garbus?
I don't know.
Okay, she's a documentarian who's like fucking phenomenal. Like her documentarian skills are out of this world. And I found this like documentary that was about the Idaho 4, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna try this out. And in the first couple screens it said Liz Garbus, and I was like, I literally said out loud, shut the fuck up. Like just like super loud out loud. I was like, and then I said, what the fuck? Like it just was like too overwhelming because I love her so much. And I had no idea she did this documentary because the time I saw it talked about by a guy and not her. So I thought it was this guy's documentary, but it was hers. I was so phenomenal, like so excited. I woke Sean up, made him watch it with me, and we both were just like completely stuck. Like we couldn't leave the screen. We watched all 4 episodes back to back, couldn't stop. It is so intensely good. I really recommend it. So definitely, if you are interested in that, it's called One Night in Idaho. And I love Liz Garbus, so she's never gonna take you wrong. Like she makes sure to like really bring voice to like the victims and the victims' families. And I was bawling right away, bawled the whole way through. It was so good, so good. Yeah, just so moving. Just the way that she really just does such like justice. So I guess mentioned though, like she's the kind of person I would trust to bring up things like the fact that we all paid attention because they're white and she didn't. So that is a downside, but anyway, she's great. She's one of my 2 favorites. It's her and you have to check it out. It's her and Erin Lee Carr. They're my 2 favorite documentarians. Erin Lee Carr did the one on Gypsy Rose and Dee Dee. Gypsy Rose, Munchausen by proxy. Yeah, Gypsy Rose and Dee Dee, whatever the fuck, Blanchard.
I gotta watch that because I've called Mommy Dead and Dearest into Munchausen. I think I told you that.
You did. That's why I was like,
into factitious disorder by proxy, and it's kind of very intriguing. We're having a big true crime day today.
Yeah, this is a big true crime day. Anyone who likes true crime, this is your day. Also, but I would mention though, you should, if you haven't seen it, her documentary, Erin Carr's, is Mommy, Dearest, Mommy, Dear and Dead. What the fuck? You know what I'm saying? Mommy, Dear and Dead. Dearest Mom, fucking hell. I just said it too. I started to say it and I had it right, but then I just totally forgot.
Mommy, Dearest?
Mommy, Dead and Dearest. Yeah, Mommy, Dead and Dearest. Mommy, Dead and Dearest.
Oh.
It's the name of the documentary. Find it immediately. It's on HBO. It's phenomenal. It's so good. Yeah.
I have so much to watch.
I know. There's so many good things. But yeah, anytime you see a documentary by Erin Lee Carr or by Liz Garbus, you're in good shape. Like, they're just such phenomenal.
Twist my motherfucking arm.
I know, right?
So now that we have spent sufficient time discussing our various criminal passions and true crime passions, we're going to transition hard to the Queer Ultimatum, which is not criminal, though at times some of the actions of the contestants, or whatever we want to call them, feel a bit criminal. So Dr. Kay, I'm so excited to talk about this show with you. I think it's the first queer show we've covered. Like, there's a lot of like bi content we love, but I'm so glad that you suggested we cover this show, because it enraptured me and I loved it the whole time.
Yes, that's so good. And the first one was so good. And you haven't seen the first one as context, which is helpful for folks to know. And also that means you would also not think to necessarily cover it for this, because if you had seen it, you'd totally feel that way too. It is so good. And like, you should go back and watch the first one when you get a chance, because it is just as good. And I think the idea too, you're right. Like, we are, as 2 bi plus podcasters, podcast hosts, co-hosts, we are often like left wanting for like good queer content in the reality TV world. So it is nice that this is offering some of that, like, reprieve from that desperately bad dearth of queer content on reality TV. And in fact, like, very, very disturbing queer content. Like, if we think about another time we had a good conversation about biphobia, was during that show Perfect Match, which is coming back out. And that was so bad. It was so biphobic. So
it was awful. Yeah. I forgot about that. I had to like block it. But I have to say, like, the normal Ultimatum show, I did not like it at all. And it made me sad. And
very
this
sexist
was
and
200 times better. Like, it was just great.
Yeah. It is totally different. It is totally different from the regular one. It really is. So like, yeah, you wouldn't be like wanting to watch another season if you had just watched one of the hetero ones, because it just is disturbing how they do it. And also it's like very patriarchal, masculine. It's like, it's definitely not, it feels sexist and bad and very heterosexist too. So then you would think they wouldn't be good at doing a queer show, but they did a great job at it. So we were thinking we would start by talking about whom the cast members, whom we were watching, who the cast members are, and then just that'll give us some names to get started into the rest of the segments. So I have a little list here. The first two were Marie and Mel, and Marie had asked Mel to be married. Like, so she asked the ultimatum of Mel. Mel is masc, Marie is femme. Mel is also one of the castmates who ends up having sex, and then they had been dating for 4 years. Haley asked Pilar. They're both femme. Haley is another member of a couple who ended up having sex in the trial marriages. They'd been dating for 10 years. Brittany asked AJ. AJ is masc, Brittany is femme, and they've been dating for 5 years. Kyle asked Bridget. They're both like hipster. I wouldn't even say I think they're gender non-binary. Yeah. Do you think that?
I think Kyle definitely is, because they mentioned like fiancés being they, them sort of terms. But yeah. I kind of had crushes on both of them.
They're great
before watching them, and then afterwards I was like, no.
They're not someone I would date. Neither one is a person I would date, but they both were like cool. Like, they were people that they're like, they have similar like queer theory views on the world that I was attached to pretty quickly. But yeah, I agree. And they'd been dating for only 2.5 years, which honestly I was like, whoa, that is not as long as everyone else. And then Ashley asked Marita. They're both pretty femme. I would say Ashley is like more leaning towards eventually being non-binary, but she is also femme presenting, at least like long hair with her hair long and straightens it and stuff. She issues and wants to marry Marita, but she basically said to Marita at the beginning, it's just that it's interesting you have like wandering eyes all the time and I don't get it. And Marita says, well, she's not going to get the love she needs, so it's natural from Ashley, so it's natural she's going to be curious about other relationships. It's just like icky feeling at the beginning of the relationship. Marita regularly tells Ashley that she's not doing enough. So there's something happening there in their dynamic that leads them to this. They had been dating for 3 years.
They're just missing each other.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and maybe not having the capacity to be there the way that Ashley needs. I mean, the way that Marita needs, and then that must be very frustrating for Ashley.
Yeah, it truly feels like that's the case. Like, yeah, agreed.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and then Dana asked Megan for the ultimatum, and Megan is right. She Lebanese. You were thinking maybe Lebanese. I think she's. Yeah, I just watched that part of it just today too, and I immediately spaced it just now. But yeah, she's like potentially Islamic faith or Muslim. She definitely is of a cultural background where it's not okay to be gay, and so she has a really hard time imagining even telling her family, which is fucking fine, by the way. Like. Right. The fact that Dana gives her such a hard time about that is driving me a little bit up the wall. Like, and she doesn't even have like a good reason. Like, she's basically saying like she should just be proud about it and like force people to be okay with it.
And not all families are accepting, and frankly, like that can be a huge hill to climb for people.
Yeah, like or unsafe, even unsafe. Yeah. And if it's unsafe, she should not do it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It seems like Dana has not had that experience. And while I'm so happy for her, it's like you can't necessarily put a timeline on someone's family acceptance journey.
Exactly. And it was interesting that Pilar was there, who had the story to tell about that. You know, that her family still has not talked to her yet since she disclosed her identity to them. So that's our cast. That's our whole cast here.
Yay.
A good cast. So our first segment, as a reminder for folks, is if producers of this show, The Ultimatum Queer Love, were psychologists, XYZ aspect of it would look more like ... So what aspect would you change if you were a producer as a psychologist, and what would it look like?
Okay, so there were a lot of unwritten rules that I felt confused about, and sometimes they seem to be used for dramatic effect, but I didn't necessarily know what the rule was. For example, like people talking to their previous partner. When AJ did it with, oh my gosh, Brittany? Is that her partner?
Brittany, yes. Yeah. Yep.
And
perfect.
Like Maria was upset. It felt like we were supposed to like really empathize with Maria. But then I realized later that a lot of them are doing that. And I didn't really realize that. Like I would just I would have liked to be clear on what the parameters were around that for the castmates, or what the norms were, so that I could know how egregious to feel about given behaviors. Because if everyone was doing it, then singling out AJ and Brittany actually isn't that fair. But I guess I didn't have a sense of what the social norms were on a few issues, including sex, which they did bring up in the reunion, spoiler alert, but what the operational definition of that. I wish they would have brought up some of that stuff earlier, because I thought it was juicy and interesting content.
It's so good and so true. And one of those things that the host mentions that the conversations are different in Queer Love, and that's one of those conversations that's different. Sex, what sex means and what we call sex. And that can be different from couple to couple, how you label it, which is the point they talk about in the reunion. So that makes it a really important part to bring up, since we do kind of play around with the idea of who had sex and what did it look like. And who, and is it just, do we just consider it sex if that couple thinks of it as sex, or should we be using our own definitions for it to call it that? Is another thing that gets more complicated if you're in the area of talking about queer love and sex. Yeah, totally. Great point. And I think they're that part I feel is couple to couple. They're allowed to have sex or whatever, do anything they want with as long as they are agreeing about their boundaries.
Right. Yeah. Yes, and I think there were some instances where that didn't happen. Things got complicated for sure. But yes, what was your producer gripe?
Okay, so my producer gripe, I think that's a great one too, is sort of operational definitions. And then also I would be interested to know what are the boundary conversations they're having first. That'd be a good thing they should work in, is tell us when they introduce each couple, tell us what they decided their boundaries are, because I would like to know that and think about it with them a little bit.
And also with your trial marriage, how are you introducing the idea that you're talking to your partner?
Exactly.
Or your ex, as they call it in the show, which is obviously not
Exactly. Clearly still dating, really. Yeah, exactly. And I think, that conversation should be invited explicitly. They should say, are you talking to your, you two should talk about, here we're going to have you talk about this on camera, talk to each other about what you decided with your partners, ex-partners, you were going to have for boundaries. And I think there, a show that does that is Fantasy Island. Is that what it's called? Fantasy Island? The one that's there's a couples therapist. Yeah. It's actually pretty good, to be honest. And the guy's name is the same as Mark. He's Mark Wahlberg. The guy's name is Mark Wahlberg, even though it's not Mark Wahlberg, but it's that. His name is actually Mark Wahlberg, but it's not Marky Mark. But yeah, so he is a couples therapist, sort of. He's not really, but he acts as one. And these couples come in, and their first conversation on camera really is what their boundaries were coming in. And I think that's a great idea.
That's amazing. I think more reality shows should do that, because I think that might be a great harm reduction sort of model.
Yes, exactly. And it's also still good for TV. You're not harming the TV for us to know that explicitly. So good. So love that. My thing about producers of the show thing is that essentially I've decided it's a little bit of a broken formula, because the person which they know, right? They say in the opening, I don't know if they did this season, I didn't pay attention, but every other season they start in the beginning with their introduction saying ultimatums are not actually supposed to be good for you. They even say that they're this is not actually recommended, but in this case we're doing it because of whatever. They defend it somehow, but it is not good for relationships. We do know that. So beyond that fact, which is already true, I also feel this formula is broken because the person calling for the ultimatum doesn't want to date anyone else. They just want to be with the person that they are bringing in. Whereas the person who's coming in doesn't want to get married. So they must be jazzed to go date a bunch of people at the dating scene, right? When they get to date people. And so unrelentingly, every single season, someone who called the ultimatum says to the other person, oh man, I brought you here, but now I don't like this anymore. Because of course they don't. Because they brought them here. Now this person's jazzed. They get to go date everybody. And you don't want to date anyone else because you want to marry them. That's why you brought them here. So you don't want to date, and you actually feel uptight, and not uptight, but sort of uptight, but I mean more guarded and defensive about dating. So it's uncomfortable. And it ends up being every single season there's a conversation like that. And I think another person was saying do you even want to live with someone else for 3 weeks? And that was yes, if not you, then someone else. It's sort of, it's sort of there becomes this written a scripted almost. It's scripted quality to it, where it's you could just guess this is coming up because it does every season, because it's always going to be a broken part of that formula. I think that's the hard part with the dating thing, and I don't know what the solution to that is, but I think if psychologists were producers, they would shift that somehow. I don't know if it's maybe that maybe it's not dating, maybe they don't think of it as dating, maybe it's more do something else to introduce people to each other. I don't know, but something about that particular task of dating everybody is different for both people, and it ends up being kind of shitty for the person who brought the other person here.
Right. Except in the case of, oh my God, why am I forgetting her name? Dana.
Yeah, Dana and Megan. Because Dana brought her here, but then she's like, I'm excited. Yeah, and Megan's like, I want to go.
Yeah, she was like really struggling. I really liked Megan until I started to struggle with her. Yeah, I think, frankly, because I had a wee crush, but I don't know. She has some work to do.
Yeah. No, definitely. And they all do, frankly. But yeah, I think even in that case, though, like there was a way in which like Dana ultimately ended up embracing it too. Like, and because they were there as being asked to do the ultimatum, they were like ready to dig into that part in a way that Dana wasn't. Like then Dana was very upset about it, you know? So I think that still played out in a way where that's not really, you know, that's shitty. I don't know. I guess it's just a part of it though. I mean, but ultimately that kind of thing was okay. It's more like the dating scene when there's always at least one or two couples who are having that same conversation. It's just sort of like, oh my gosh, of course. Like that's so shitty. And at least maybe that's what psychologists would do that's different. Just name that thing. That like that's part of the task of this and that sucks. And maybe stop showing that scene as if it's like the real drama. Because we've all fucking seen it, you know?
Right.
Like, you can't keep showing us that scene as if it's different.
There's plenty of other real drama, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. We don't need to worry about that. We get it. Yeah.
Totally. So, did you spot therapy? And if so, how did it map onto what we think of therapy?
So I thought of it as when Marita brought up her learning over time to dig into self-love in response to her keloids. So I feel like one thing is I thought that she was referring to therapy because she was young when she went through that phase of having to learn to love herself, and because that sounds like therapy. Like that sounds like something we would do in therapy, is to talk about loving yourself regardless. And I also decided to add my tiny teeny contribution to the movement of like helping people with keloids feel more self-love by telling us more about what keloids are, because I think that more awareness of it can be helpful. And so I did a little bit digging into it. One thing is that keloids are scars that, while healing from an injury or surgery or acne, it could be any number of things like that, injury, surgery, acne, people develop extra skin because there's extra collagen being released. So it results in this sort of like firm, which I had no idea. It results in this sort of like firm, thick or irregular shaped scars that are just like, it looks like it's like external, like it's on top of the skin, because of that extra collagen. And this part I also didn't know, they can develop anywhere from days to months or even years after the initial injury. That's wild. So you could really just like develop them and be like, where the fuck is this coming from? Like, you know, it's like that could be so far later. They can be discolored, itchy, and painful. So itchy or painful, both possible, or even just tender. It's not a type of cancer, nor is it contagious. And I thought the fact that that was like up front and center in the description says that people must ask that. You know, they think it's cancer, they think it's contagious. But it's not. Yeah. It can develop from cuts, incisions, burns, surgical incisions, acne, or chickenpox scars. And it can also develop from tattoos and piercings. And from vaccinations. Yeah.
Wow. I had no idea. Thank you for sharing that. I did know kind of deeper digging into what that condition was. And that's really interesting.
Well, and I also feel like, especially right now with vaccinations, since that's such a big conversation right now, I know. I was like, that's good to know, because it's not, that doesn't mean that everybody's going to get autism from it too, or like, whatever. The other thing is it's most common among folks who are 10 to 30 years old, which I would imagine is because collagen is released more in those years, and also darker skin tones. So Black folks in particular tend to develop it. People with a family history, of course, are more likely to develop it. And then there's also places on the body where you're more likely to develop it, which is like the chest, shoulders, and earlobes. And for treatment, there's a bunch, like laser therapy, radiation therapy, surgical removal, pressure therapy where they're like pushing it down, cryotherapy. So there's a lot of options. Also corticosteroid injections, just injections, which help as well. So there are a lot of options for treatment, which is also good to know. So if you have keloids and you're feeling like you are not in a place of like embracing self-love and would like to get them worked on, there are treatments you can seek. So I feel like knowing about them can help, because then people aren't like, what's that? Which I think is the problem, right? Like I think that must be hard for people to self-accept about it.
Absolutely. Wow.
Yeah.
Good to know.
So
I did not know what to say for this one.
Yeah.
I don't think I heard therapy in the first 6 or whatever episodes. What was her name? Maria, who was with AJ?
Marie.
Right? Was that Marie?
No, Marie. Well, Marie partnered with AJ for the temporary time, but Marie started. Yeah. Started with Mel.
I think she, during that trial marriage, was like, I've been doing a lot of self-reflection. I've been reflecting on a lot of what's happened to me. And it felt like therapy. And then it made me wonder if like taking the time to be able to self-reflect on who you are, how you're showing up in relationships, how you're showing up in this experience, maybe that is therapy for people. It seemed like it was for her. I think in part because she felt abandoned, and by the way, rightfully so, by AJ. So it kind of brought that enactment up for her.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And it did. There were ways in which I absolutely agree that this can be really impactful, have a lot of impact for people in terms of their own mental health and self-discovery and self-acceptance. I love that. I also know that on the first season of Queer Love, one of the cast members was asked if they were given therapy, and they are given therapy, like they're given counseling sessions for free. Yeah, so that's good.
Seems like some folks use those better than others.
Yeah, exactly. No, true. Yeah. And like there's a question about like how good those services are and like how many sessions, but you know. So this next section, that's great. I really appreciate how you took that one. That's nice. So this next section is number 3 segment. One of the following. You can either answer the question, if one of our clients said this, what would we say? Or you can answer it as, if one of our clients had XYZ presenting concern, how might we as a psychotherapist or a couples counselor address or intervene around it?
Okay, so Mel lying to Maria when she asked if anything physical happened in their trial marriage, and Mel straight up denied it. I would want to know more about how she responds when she's backed into a corner, like how she felt in that moment, and how she manages secure connections. Because yeah, granted, Maria, I think if we go later down the season, had her own struggles, but was very good to Mel and like really tried, and I think was putting her best foot forward. And it almost felt like there was a devaluing on Mal's part. And that I truly think that if Dana was ready to do the thing, then they would have done the thing. And I actually do think that they would have been very bad for each other. I don't think they brought out the best in each other. But I think I would want to know what sort of attachments make Mel feel excited, what kind of attachments make her feel distanced, and how she responds when she devalues someone. Because I don't know that she's completely aware or willing to like take in the harm that she can cause in those situations. I didn't get that sense as we went later down the season. And I really felt for Maria in that moment, because that was such egregious gaslighting and made Haley look really bad when Haley was clearly picking up on something. And I'm sorry, those two, by my definition, by what I was hearing, they were having sex. That was sex.
Let's be real.
And they loved each other. That felt clear to me. I think Dana very quickly backtracked, but they were like pretty in. So I do think Mel has a lot of work to do, and maybe feels to me less willing to do said work. And I think some sort of relational trauma-focused, attachment-focused therapy would be really good for her.
I love that. I love it. Yeah, that's perfect. I love every bit of that. That's so appropriate. Yeah, I totally agree. They were having sex. Let's be real. That was definitely sex.
That was
and
sex.
They still kind of
whatever the
fuck
it. Holds how it was sex.
It was definitely some sort of version of sex. There were things involved that were sex. Totally agree. So for mine, I answered A, which is like, if one of my clients said this, what would we say? I was thinking about when Marita said during the dating scene, when she said, she brings up that she wants somebody to be romantically inclined and to like create these like moments of romance and like surprises and quite like big things. Like Marie asked her during one of their mini dates, what would you hope someone would do? And she was like, I want a scavenger hunt. Like, I want someone to make me a scavenger hunt. It was so cute, but also like wild.
She was almost like in La La Land to me. I was like, you are on a whole different planet.
Truly. She has very much her own ideas of what romance is to begin with, but then like what, she's has an interesting self-view, I think, too. But so what I would take, the words, the phrase I was going to say I would want to respond to is when she says, to, I don't think it's Marie, but she says to somebody, maybe Dana, she says, I think the fact that I do romantic gestures for my significant others is a cry for help, like, because I want someone to do that for me. And before she said the second sentence, I thought she just said, like, it's a cry for help. And I was like, yes, it is. Like, good for you. Like, you understand that this, like, need for romantic gestures is a cry for help. Like, you are looking for attention in, like, a understandable way. And it doesn't have to be in these grand gestures. Like, there could be other ways that, like, intimacy could help you feel fulfilled and, like, attended to without it needing to be, like, you know, a scavenger hunt, say. And so, but then she goes on to say, like, I'm doing it because I want it. So she still isn't understanding, like, where I think that her, like, attachment to the idea of romance is something else than that. You know, there's something else to it, and that's important. And she should look at the underlying need being met too.
Mm-hmm. And she is looking for it in the worst person. Like, I really liked Ashley. I think I would enjoy hanging out with Ashley. She seems like a really sweet person. She is the least romantic person on that show by far. So you're seeking something that maybe someone just can't give, and that's okay that they can't give it. But I think her unwillingness to accept it is tough.
Yeah. And I think fear of being alone if she's not with Ashley too. Yeah.
Womp, womp. So what about us? I'm sure there were so many sociopolitical moments, but what was one that you picked up on? This could be like anti-racism, heterosexism, zeitgeist moments, cultural climate, diverse cultural representation. What did you pick up on?
Fabulous. So I'm going to give this one to the host. And I think, like, it was really clear through the season that,
I thought about really doing this as a second. So yes, I'm glad you're doing it.
No, that's good. Yeah, that's good. Because I think there's also so many moments in the show. And I was kind of torn, like, do I, you know, kind of waste my time with this? But I think it's important because also it sounds like she gets a lot of bullying. Like, the way that they reacted to her in the show, they were, like, giving her a lot of attention and sort of saying, like, it's okay that I'm not, you know, queer. And whatever. And I get that. It is okay she's not queer. But it's not the best. You know what I mean? Honestly, it's not. And, like, you can see it in the castmates' faces. Like, you can tell that they're kind of like, what? Like, they're like,
and she misses the mark often and centers herself in weird ways. Like, I know AJ gave her some flowers at the end there, but I just didn't buy it in the way they were, because she would say some weird shit, you know? And it was like,
all the time.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that's not what we're talking about. You know, like, they're talking about something very intense and deep, and she's like, well, we all learned so much. This is just so intense. You know, like, it's like, oh my God, stop. Like, that's not the point right now. And then, so the part, and, like, I think some of it is, like, you know, some of it is that she's not queer. And so she is not picking up on the nuances. So some of it is heterosexism, like internalized, not internalized because she's not gay. But, well, so here's something that's interesting. I noticed this time I was watching it, she said, I'm not in a queer relationship.
Yeah.
So if she could be queer,
said,
but
you're in a hetero presenting relationship. I looked it up, and it seems like what they say is that she is straight and cisgender, but I am not 100% clear on that based on the way it's discussed. So I looked into that too, because I'm like, maybe this is biphobia, but I don't think it's, I mean, if you're going to be that, then you should, in my opinion, be an out bi host who is, like, being proud about that and not, like, doing this push-pull where we're all confused.
I don't like it. I don't like it at all, because the other thing I don't like, I agree. If she's bi, then own that, because that's what's going to make you more appropriate for this role and make us have more faith in you as a leader. And also understand that some of your problems are your own internalized biphobia rather than your inability to learn about another culture. So, like, another group. So I don't like that at all. And the other thing I don't like about that is that they're using that language to fucking make it unclear. That's fucked up. They're making it seem like maybe she's gay. Maybe she's gay. We don't know. Like, if we say that she's in a straight relationship, maybe they don't know if she's straight or not. Like, dude, that's fucked. I'm so not into that. That's so, like, purposely
that's too much.
Vaguing it. Yeah, making it vague. That's so fucked. So I'm not into that at all. And that is a part of it I don't like at all, is how they presented her. And then the other thing was not even heterosexism, but her ageism when she made that comment. So she says, like, she specifically goes, I'm not in a queer relationship, but I understand there are different complications. Conversations are different. But at the end of the day, I am an old married woman, to which many people in the room laughed, but not everyone, thank God. But, like, I am an old married woman. That is, like, wildly inappropriate, friend. Like, you are making, like, like both like you're making fun of the fact that you're clearly not old. Okay, like older adults are gonna look at you and be like, "Fuck you." You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like that's not funny to like use us as like a way that you can understand being different or something. Like you can understand how much marriage matters or like whatever. It's like you were not an old married woman, so like settle down. And I think that was like really inappropriate to pull from that demographic group to be funny. She was trying to be funny, and people laughed at it. And they showed people laughing, which they might have even been laughing at that, but I think they were because I noticed that Bridget and Kyle were the only ones who weren't like outwardly laughing. Kyle kind of smiled, and Bridget was shaking her head. I was like, yes, Bridget. She gets it. She fucking knows. She knows this is so fucking inappropriate. It was wild, friends. I was like, no. Don't have her say that as the way to like make it okay that she's not queer. To like put down another group in like a way. And then also like you're not doing a good job of like making me feel solid on how you're addressing this, because the whole point of that conversation was to be like, look, it's okay, she's not queer. It's not okay. The way you're doing this is not okay. And like it could be okay. There's so many ways to do this that's okay. But this is not the way to do it. And having her be like, I'm in a hetero relationship is not the way. That's not the way.
No. Every time she spoke, it felt like she was missing the mark. I have to say that when AJ was kind to her, it made me like AJ better, because it's showed me that she's willing to like stick up for the underdog, because clearly that host is getting a lot of hate. Yeah. And I still don't think she should be the host. I still don't think she gets it necessarily. I think she's probably a kind, well-meaning person. And that's why I like that AJ gave her some flowers. Yes. And maybe next season we can go in a different direction, because maybe this isn't working for anyone.
Yes.
I don't know.
It's really not. It must not be, because she seems very unhappy, honestly. And like they also like she like her even. I think the other thing too is that they had to like, so I think the reason she's hosting is because she was at the time of the first season on Netflix for Steel Magnolias or whatever the fuck, some show like that. So they were trying to give her more presence so that people would watch this other show. No, don't do that to me. Get someone queer, please. Don't do this just for marketing reasons. That's fucked up. It again shows your lack of attention to the importance of queer representation and the differences, because we don't want to hear it from a fucking straight woman who has no clue. I don't want to hear it. And you can tell that they don't want to hear it.
And seems uncomfortable with emotions. Like anytime it got too charged, she would be like, all right, moving on. And it's like, it was just, I think it's just a miss, and that's okay. Like not everyone has to do everything, and that's fine.
Yes, exactly. No, I completely agree. Okay, good. I love that we're on the same page about this. Yeah. Oh, okay. That's it for mine. How about you?
Yeah. Okay. So this was another tricky one. I decided to go in this direction just because, it was going back and forth. So the Kyle Pilar thing was super complicated to me and felt sociopolitical, because it brought up issues of consent. And I think race was also in there, in interesting ways that I think Kyle became aware of as they were talking. And I'm really impressed with Pilar for like standing her ground and being like, no, you were doing X, Y, and Z. Here's what I think about this situation. And maybe it's selective showing. I could tell that Kyle maybe didn't feel super comfortable in what we saw on TV. Like I was like, what is their deal? I don't have a clear sense of where they stand in their dynamic with Pilar. But clearly, Kyle was giving mixed messages. And Pilar read that as, you want to hook up, which is fair enough. Like people misread, people misunderstand. I think the way that Kyle then was like, you pushed my boundaries, like implied that like it was a non-consensual thing, was a little shitty. Like, it felt like that was their narrative to like other that person.
Yeah, it has that kind of vibe, and it's like that can happen so often with that, where it's like it becomes about the other person pushing your boundaries in a way that then can become the like pointing at like, now everyone's going to jump behind her and be like, oh no, like her boundaries are pushed, and so like that gives the other person no right to be able to be like, well, you were also da-da-da, because then it looks like they're being defensive.
Right. And to be clear, Meredith has never like about our...
No, I figured.
Yeah, but just she can be a mean girl in that way where she labels something, and then the other person is put in a position to feel guilty, where I would normally take the bait. Pilar did not. But anyway.
Yeah, she did not.
Moving on.
Well, yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yes. So I think that Kyle's move of framing it in a certain way was grounded in her feelings and was fair, because I don't think that she was communicating clearly, and I think she was uncomfortable. but was not necessarily fair to Pilar, because I think when Kyle was clear, Pilar took a step back and was not trying to like cross her boundaries kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. And Pilar also mentions that she's like, we talked about our boundaries. I get it. Like, I know our boundaries. And like because I think that was one thing that Kyle tried to use is like, well, you knew what we talked about was our boundaries. And Pilar was like, yes, I did know our boundaries. And that night it felt a little unclear. And like, to Pilar's credit also, it's like she might have been thinking that Kyle's unsureness, or like sort of like the way she was sort of coming onto her a little bit, or like blurring the lines, is that like it could be because she feels guilty because of Bridget, not because she's worried about her boundaries. You know, it could be that she does want to push boundaries with her. Is that could be what Pilar's reading it as. I mean,
right. And Kyle's hard to read, so I get that. And like, I think Pilar checked in about that at one point, and Kyle was like, "No, I do like you," or something, and it was just unclear.
Exactly.
And so I loved that Pilar like stood up for herself and had like a really nuanced, complicated conversation. And I think as they were talking, Kyle kind of realized that she was being mean, like, and that wasn't how she wanted to be. And I thought that was kind of beautiful, honestly.
Amazing.
Like I was happy to see it. And I thought it was a really beautiful conversation. So, and it felt sociopolitical to me because it was bringing up issues of consent. And I think this wasn't addressed, but I think race was in there too, because it was like making a woman of color the aggressor in a way that was not comfy. So I liked that conversation, and I'm glad that they kind of moved through it. I thought it was cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And not just the aggressor, but also sexualizing Asian women. And I think there's a sort of like fetishization of Asian women, and that they're like sexualized. Well, I think actually all women of color too, obviously. All women of color are sexualized. And also there's a sexualization of Asian women too that is specific to that race. And I think that is definitely at play too in the way that was handled. So yeah, I totally agree. I really loved their conversations too. The way that they ended on the sort of like the way they landed after their tough conversations. They had tough conversations that I loved, and then I loved how they landed with Kyle being able to be like, "Thank you for that. Like, I now learned a lot about myself, and I really appreciate it."
Yeah, it was good. It was nice. So good.
Well handled. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So our fifth segment is one of the following: A, this is something raised in the episodes that we as psychologists wish more people knew about, or B, this is something that we thought people would mention the following day because it's important, but they didn't, so we want to mention it now.
Okay. So I saw multiple, I'm pretty sure, definitely saw Mal do it. I think AJ did it too, was the talking to the more femme woman who, if we are to conceptualize this, perhaps some of the more mask-presenting butch lesbian women have internalized some masculine ways of interacting and communicating that make them more dominant in relationships. And maybe they haven't always gotten feedback about that because they are also in a power down group. So it's really complicated. I hated I really want you to ... And then they would tell them something very prescriptive about how they need to change. This happened to, I believe, Maria with AJ. And it also happened to Maria with
it's Marie.
Mal. My apologies, Marie, not Maria. But I think it happened to Marie both times, which sucks. Like, I'm pretty sure that was the 2 times I heard it, with like AJ and Marie, and then Mal and Marie, which is like, that's so unfair. Like because what it does is put you in a power position where you're like, I've got it figured out, and you don't. And in both cases, I think that is untrue. And then I can understand, not to talk too far ahead, but I can understand why Marie was coming from such a place of resentment later on in the show, which we will talk about next week. But it's like, I don't know. I don't like that. I don't like that way of talking to people. And it's very prescriptive and unfair. And it really bothers me. I felt like very annoyed when I heard that. So.
Yeah, I did it too. I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, one of the times was with AJ when they were talking about like Marie's trauma kind of, and AJ was like, well, you are just figuring this out, so like you need to do this. And it's sort of like, whoa, hello, you're not her therapist, and like you don't know her and like what her shit is and whatever. It's like, no, thank you. And then, yeah, I totally agree. Mel did that with her. And then also Mel did it with Dana at one point too. It was like, or is it this, that you're doing this thing or whatever? I was like, what? You don't know.
Yeah.
Or like, you need her to tell you up front if this thing's happening because that's something that's bothering you. And yet, like, you're not thinking about how that affects her. Like, you know, it's like there's also that piece too. Yeah, I love that. That is a definite thing that would be good for us all to continue talking about in society. It's sort of like when we're giving prescriptions to people in a patriarchal way, but regardless, you know. But yeah, it's interesting it overlapped with the mask castmates.
Yeah, and it's interesting to think like all lesbians are in a power down position in society, and then maybe mask lesbians, I think we saw in this show, have a bit more power. And then femme lesbians tend to be in maybe a more power down position. Not to be so binary about it, because not all people fell in one of those groups. But when we saw it happen, that tended to be how it went.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, I feel like it's interesting it also didn't happen among the non-binary folks, right? Like, so there is something to be said about the patriarchal nature of it, and that seems to be seeping into folks who are more masked. And it makes so much sense, right? If you're absorbing a type of gender identity, that you're going to absorb some of the not so great qualities too, and not so great traits of that, or like interactional qualities. So it is kind of a bummer they can't like critique that about themselves or critique that about men to then not have that be part of what they absorb.
Absolutely.
But
what about you? What was which one is this? What is something that you
5,
wish people knew more about, or something that people didn't mention?
Yes, fabulous. So I agree about that. And I think there's like some gaslighting related to that, where it's sort of like, well, this is about you. Like, you're doing this thing wrong. Like, you need to do this. And therefore, like, making them feel like they're the problem in whatever which way. And there was also gaslighting in some other aspects too, sort of like between Dana and Megan. And then, all right, like Mel and basically anybody. But what I was going to bring up in particular, and this wasn't gaslighting per se, but it was a part of this sort of intense dynamic that was happening between Dana and Mel, was that their first, and this was something I thought people would mention the next day that they didn't, because I was like, whoa, what is this? Which was Dana and Mel's first fucking like interaction, really. It wasn't their first. But when they were at the party where everyone was at it, right before they were going to choose, it was like the bar the last night, Dana like saw Mel snuggling with Britt and then like pull Mel aside, was like, what are you doing? Like, you didn't tell me that you're like that with Brittany. Like, oh my gosh, it was so intense. And I was like, this is already not a great dynamic. Like, what are we doing here? You know, it's like just not a great way to start. And I felt like it was very, again, prescriptive and sort of like, you know, she's like, you can't do that if you're going to be with me, or like, you're being like this, and I think that means this, and da-da-da. So it was interesting. It was coming from Dana to Mel, but it still was very much, that kind of, and also like blaming and shaming. Like, what are you doing with her? Like, you're da-da-da. And then that's like, what are you saying about Brittany that way too? Like, I don't know. Right. I didn't like that at all.
Yeah, it was kind of a lot. It kind of, I think, keyed into what their dynamic was going to look like down the pipe.
Exactly. Yeah. So I also will just hop onto this last one, which is something we've mentioned previously, because the only really thing I had about that was that we've talked about gaslighting before.
Yes. Oh shit! I realized this one goes slightly ahead. Is there another way I can bring this up? I'm just going to bring this up. It's only a very minimal spoiler. Okay.
That's totally fine.
So this is something we've mentioned previously, and it's the central relational paradox. Pilar said like she had always worried that if she waited too long, Haley would move on. And then she kind of did with not Meg. Megan? Shit, is it Megan? Oh
yeah, Megan.
Megan. Yeah. And so that Dr. Kay has done a wonderful mental health checkup about the central relational paradox. And it was so interesting to see Pilar be like, this is my like worst fear and it's coming true. I think it's like the next episode, so it's not that big of a spoiler, but slight spoiler.
No. Yeah. No, that's great. That's a great, you know what? How perfect is that we ended this episode on an aspect that comes up in our next episode. It's sort of like bridging us to our next episode of the podcast.
Yay. Yes.
What a delight. I'm so glad we got a chance to talk about it.
Yes. I love talking about this show. It's really fun. Really interesting and rich. I think because maybe women are just more nuanced and relational and complicated in all the best ways.
Yeah. And more open with our emotions. And like, therefore, there's more to play with there, which is really cool. Yeah, I love it. And then the queerness too. So like, obviously that's like because there's two women, so that makes it more like that's related to the fact they're women. But then also the queerness of it just related to like being an oppressed group, and then seeing how we absorb oppression, and some of us like reify it or like reiterate it while still struggling with it too, of course. And like, it's not like they're also not suffering under patriarchy, but even in the way they perpetuate it. But there's also the, you know, parts where it's like, where are you critiquing it? Where are you sort of absorbing it and reiterating it as a way of trying to work through it, or try to like imagine how to, it's like an identification with the aggressor, right? It's like when we are the victim of a certain dynamic, starting to identify with the person who put us in that down position is a way of having safety in the future. So it's sort of like that idea with that, I think. Yeah. So come check us out on Patreon, because as Dr. Ray mentioned, my mental health checkup is on there, which is about the central relational paradox. So if you join us for $5 a month, very inexpensive. Also, you'll get a shout out on the podcast, and also maybe get a free year of membership. But otherwise, it's $5 a month anyway, so it's really not that bad. And you will be able to see a lot of good things, and we're going to keep upping that in times to come. I also put like a little essay out about things related to our last podcast episode, and there is, like I said, mental health checkup, which is also related to Huda. So if you're interested in Love Island, I also apply the central relational paradox to Huda in the most recent post. So go check that out. And we are also on Instagram. Oh yeah, well, let me say the name of our Patreon, which is patreon.com/realitytest, capital R, capital T, or you can go to the search bar and put search at the @ reality test. You'll find us that way. I will also say we're on Instagram at Dr. Ray Pods and at Dr. K Pods. We are also on TikTok at dr.reality.tv, REALITV, and also on both YouTube and Facebook at Reality Test Pod. So come check us out. Any of those places, we'd love to see you there.
And please don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, and tell your friends, because it really helps us to keep doing this thing we love. And yeah, thank you so much for listening.
Yay. See you all next session.
Bye.
Bye.